These are my rules. I make them up.
In the railway series, steam engines are all portrayed as male, whereas a lot of railway enthusiasts refer to steam engines the way sailing enthusiasts refer to ships, as all female. And here am I thinking, there's gotta be some kind of middle ground when it comes to anthropomorphizing these characterful machines. If you identify a steam engine the same way you'd identify the people who worked on them, let's face it, in the age of steam as the backbone of transportation, it was pretty much exclusively men. But there are loopholes, and I intend to exploit them. The first loophole is if the steam engine has side plates, which were nicknamed aprons or skirts. I've seen no evidence of people calling them kilts, okay, give it up. Also, I've never read about anyone calling cowcatchers skirts. It's always side skirts, dust skirts, or motion skirts. So we've got classes like the famous LNER Y6s and J70s, and we've got a handful of industrials. The second loophole is the biggest. In both world wars, with all the lads going off to fight, the railways had to employ women. They tended not to get plum jobs, but they did effectively run the railways. So we've got ROD and WD engines like the WD-8s and 10s, and USATC engines like the S-160s. We've got the Great Central 8Ks and LMS-8Fs, which were adopted as World War goods engines. And we've got the Southern Q1s that were specifically built to comply with the War Department's requirements on constructing new engines. And I opted to go a little further and apply this to engine classes that are well known for wartime service. I know every engine was pressed into service for the war effort. That's why I'm specifically referring to engines who are more famous for wartime service, like the LNER B-12s, which are famous for hauling hospital trains after D-Day, or the LBSCR D-3s, one of which legendarily took down a Luftwaffe. Then there are engines who were given wartime modifications, and there's a line here. For example, an LSWR King Arthur was fitted with 3 funnels to disperse the exhaust and make it harder for German planes to see from the air, whereas the LNER A4s had their valances removed during the war, but that was for ease of maintenance, rather than anything specific to warfare, so they don't count. And going back to the King Arthurs, they were introduced in 1918, the final year of World War I. And there are engines who had batches built because of warfare, like the LMS-4Fs, whose construction might have ended in 1937 if not for wartime needs. So any class that was introduced or outroduced during the years of World Wars I and II qualifies. A lot of this is reactionary, I know, but what else can it be? The last engines I'll talk about in this loophole are British Railway Standard designs, all of which were built after World War II. I'd hate to leave the entire range out of the running. So we've got the 9Fs, which were a development of the WD-10s, and we've got the Britannias, which the rebuilt Bullitt Pacifics resembled. The third loophole applies to engines built or rebuilt in the age of preservation, in an ever so slightly more progressive era. New build freelance designs, like Tom Rolt, or rebuilds to designs that were drawn up in the past but never built, like the Great Western Mongrel. The final loophole is for narrow gauge engines only, mostly because I don't know of any standard gauge engines who fall under this category. Engine classes named after women, like the Hunslet Alice class, and variations thereof, or the Bagnall Type Margaret, and variations thereof. Now, as long as we're sexing conveyances, let's expand. Starting with diesels. The side plate loophole applies, like with the BR Class 04s, and the wartime intro-outro loophole applies, like with the Class 11s. But like with the BR standards, diesel locomotive construction in Britain didn't really take off until after World War II. Going back a ways, English Electric was founded in 1918. So, fuck it, any class of diesel locomotive built by them qualifies. I know English Electric provided a lot of components and modules for mountains of BR diesels. I'm talking about diesel classes whose entire construction was specifically spearheaded by English Electric. So we've got like the choppers and the hoovers and the slugs and shit. I want to jump ahead a bit to coaches. With those, I'm going by what I've read about the Campbellton and Machrihanish Light Railway, who hired women as guards. So screw it, brake coaches or any coach with a conventional guards compartment qualifies. Since I want exceptions, birdcage coaches don't count. Slip coaches qualify, but auto coaches don't, as half the time they're occupied by drivers. And I decided the Campbellton-Machrihanish guard thing can also apply to brake vans, but there is room for male ones, if they were known for working for the National Coal Board. Back to round out diesels, rail cars and multiple units, being close relatives of coaches, make the cut, as they have guards aboard. Then we have trucks. The popularity of corrugated wagons and vans went right up during World War II, so they qualify. Diagram M4 and 5 shunters trucks qualify, as do cattle trucks and milk tankers. Admittedly, I haven't yet figured out a system for electric engines. All I have to go on right now is the World Wars loophole and the multiple unit thing. Moving on to traction engines, and such like vehicles. I started to go by the World Wars loophole when I saw this War Department traction engine with a roof, but then I thought about George Carlin's observation: Catholic men, no hats. Catholic women, hats. Jewish men, hats. Jewish women, no hats. So going off of Trevor and George, a traction engine with a roof and a road roller without a roof qualify. With steam lorries, I decided that if the smoke box and funnel stick out of the front, that's a bloke. Crane engines with no roof qualify. Plowing engines and stump pullers with roofs qualify. I still haven't figured out showman's engines. They need roofs to keep rain and stuff out of their dynamos and electric generators. Now let's look at petrol and diesel-powered road vehicles. Cars in general. I don't like women driver jokes, the suggestion that women suck at driving cars. Because everyone sucks at driving cars. So to spin on that idea, cars, taxis, and such like qualify, while lorries, being bruisers, are the opposite. Caterpillar treads, while not invented during World War I, were found to be advantageous and developed during trench warfare. So bulldozers, most excavators, and some tractors qualify. I've mentioned in a previous video that Flying Scotsman was accompanied on his America tour by a double-decker bus driven by a group of chicks selling merch. So single-decker buses are male, double-decker buses are female. In this regard, we've got some gender ambiguity here. Maybe this can apply to showman's engines too, I don't know. The last conveyance I'll talk about is tugboats. In some circles, bow fenders were colloquially known as beards. Coastal tugs and creek tugs, who mostly towed their loads behind them, tended not to have these. One caution though, sometimes when you see a steam tug without fenders, it does have them, they're just pulled up at the time. Oh, I forgot to mention ladle wagons.